The following is a local resident producers program. The program content is the sole responsibility of the producer and does not necessarily reflect the views or policies of CATV2, Oshkosh Community Access Television, the City of Oshkosh, the Oshkosh Cable Television Advisory Commission, or Time Warner Cable.
Hello again, everyone. I'm Cheryl Hentz, and welcome to another edition of Eye on Oshkosh. My co-host is former Oshkosh Mayor and City Councilwoman Melanie Bloechl, and we are joined on this edition by the current representative, Republican representative for the 53rd Assembly District, Ms. Carol Owens, Mrs. Carol Owens, and you are going to be seeking your 7th term.
I believe that's the way the numbers crunch out.
And you are facing well, there's one Republican challenger right now that you'll be facing in a primary in, I believe, next September. And then whoever wins that primary will be facing Stephen Dito, the Democrat. Why don't we just start? I mean, you've obviously been around for 12 years serving your district, but for people who may be new to the area, or just for the viewers who maybe aren't even in your district but who are interested, give us a little bit of a background about Carol Owens and what she's all about.
How far back do you want to go? You want personal background or you want political background?
Well, you can give us either.
I'm married, have been for 51 and a half more than years. Have 4 children, 5 grandchildren, a couple great-grandchildren. I lived all my life where I am now, on a farm, equal partner with my husband. Graduated from Wabeno High School, 1949.
Now that's full disclosure, Carol. That is full disclosure.
And verifiable, just look for the birth certificate. And what am I doing now? Do you want to know? I'm just, what?
You're in the Assembly now. You've been in for, you know, this is your 6th term. You're in your 12th year. You're seeking a 7th term. What made you get into the Assembly in the first place? What committees do you serve on?
Who hit you in the head, and did you ever get them, sue them? Or?
I'm a slow learner. I chose to stay at home and raise my family and be a partner with my husband. So I was easy to call on for things. I spent 10 years in a remedial reading program for kids at Green Meadow because I was close to school. So I was always there for the kids, my kids, the neighbors' kids. Our home seemed to be a place that gathered children. Even though we only had 4, there was always more on the head count. In my little township of Nakai, the town clerk, my predecessor, had served for 50 years. He was a fine chap. His name was Emerson Jones. He was just a sweet fellow. And the last 10 years or so, he had said, you know, this would be a good job for you. And I said, no, thank you. If you've ever looked at a tax roll, there's not a joke in the book, believe me, and it's not my thing. But he retired after 50 years, and then they came knocking on my door. That's what started all of this. Then while I was on the town board as town clerk, they knocked on my door again and said, Carol, can't you run for the county board? So I served simultaneously there 10 years, those two. And then in 1990, well, wherever the census comes, must have been 90. This 53rd district did not have an incumbent. So once more, they knocked on my door. And since there was no incumbent, and I knew so many of the people, having been in the towns, I had served on the Wisconsin Towns Association Board of Directors for a couple years, and people knew me. You know, what are you going to do? So that's what got me to where I am now.
So there was no
incumbent.
And no single issue, like with so many politicians,
no
there was
single
no
issue?
single issue that prompted you to run and challenge things, and the seat was vacant at that time.
The seat was vacant. I had many issues that were high on priority. We were paying tons of dollars in property tax. We couldn't get health insurance, still can't. Farming is a high-risk business, and I would say probably they haven't changed all that much. Property tax, education, health care, just to name a few. And rules and regulations. Wisconsin has just turned away so many good businesses with our horrible, horrible permitting process.
Sure.
There is no reason for anyone to wait 2 years, much less more than that.
Right.
If you can't get a permit in 2-3 months, there's something wrong. My humble opinion.
You know, you've obviously been in farming all your life, and I know that Governor Doyle has bipartisan support for a lot of farming-type initiatives now that he's putting forth, some that are in the legislature, I believe, right now, or will be by the end of the month.
I haven't seen a lot of detail.
Okay.
It's rather generic. He says diversify agriculture. To what degree is my question.
Well, and one of his initiatives, I know, has to do with health care for farmers and things like that. It does seem like he's trying to make things better for farmers. Now, obviously, that's what you would like to see. Because you do own a farm, do you have to then refrain from voting on those issues because it would be a conflict of interest?
No. If you did
Really?
that, you wouldn't have a doctor being able to serve. You wouldn't have a lawyer. This has been asked many times. It's not, my family will not benefit above and beyond what anybody else would. It's not like I'm voting something specifically for my family. Doctors wouldn't be able to vote on medical issues. Veterinarians couldn't vote on animal issues. Engineers couldn't vote on building issues.
Well, but how many veterinarians, for example, do you have in the assembly?
One.
Okay, so for
We have
him,
a couple
for one person to not vote, I don't think that that's a big crime.
I
mean,
think it's a very big crime if one person cannot vote when we're supposed to be representative government.
But if you're personally, and I don't want to get into a debate about ethics, but it just seems to me that, you know, people shouldn't be voting on things that do benefit them.
Maybe they don't benefit me.
Well, if it's farm legislation and you own a farm, how does it not benefit you?
If it doesn't benefit my operation, it doesn't benefit me. If it has been, let's take that as an example. If I have voted on issues for agriculture that have been so great, why have we lost all the farmers we have? Why have so many farmers gone bankrupt? Farmer is his own worst enemy. He works from dark to make cheap food for people who not necessarily appreciate it. Many people do. You know, I shouldn't generalize like that, but if it benefits the farmer, it benefits the consumer. Now, are you going to say the consumers shouldn't be able to vote either? If they're going to benefit from this food that's produced?
Well, I think that's kind of a stretch. I mean, for example, you know, initiatives that would create some kind of health care for farmers, you would certainly benefit from that.
I would from any kind of health care, if it was something I could choose to do.
Sure, but well, maybe and maybe not. This is legislation that's specifically for farmers, and you are a farmer. I mean, you know, here again, if that's the way the law is, maybe it's something that needs to be looked at being changed. But I just know at the local level, you folks on the city council, I mean, you were unable to. We've got a city council member, for example, who sells advertising for a cable company. He doesn't vote on any issues where there's any kind of potential conflict of interest
with his clients.
Right.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we don't want to spend a lot of time on this, but
right.
This is just. What about the environment? I wouldn't be able to vote on the environment.
Well, there again, I think that's
it's
a little different.
Zoning and land use issue. Well, smart growth. Now, shall I not
You're
vote
against smart growth, right?
No, I am not against smart growth. I think smart growth has to get slowed down. Tell me first, who is going to put this together and have the last word? When all the proposals are brought together, everybody's town plan, every city's plan comes in, every village plan comes in, and we have this, everybody's input. Who is going to put this together and have the last word? Now, who is this person? Can you tell me that?
No, we were kind of hoping maybe you could.
I asked Omni, who is doing the work for our town, and several others around, and nobody has that answer. So it has to get slowed down. The planning part of smart growth is very good. Some towns didn't choose to plan. Some towns don't have zoning.
Right.
And they really get a wake-up call when the topless bar is right across the road and there's no way to. So I am not against smart growth. I'm against too fast, too quick.
Implementing it as fast as what they want
and
to.
Who's going to have the input? Equal input is very important, and that hasn't shown up in smart growth.
Okay.
Tell me who has the last word, and then I'll be a happy camper.
Okay.
Well, I'm going to go backwards here a little bit, Carol, and this is probably going to be one of the more uncomfortable things that I'm going to ask you tonight. In the newspaper, you're quoted as saying, with people who are potentially going to be running against you, Richard Spanbauer, who will be the Republican who's seeking election in the 53rd, and Steve Dito, who will be the Democrat potentially in the primary. One of the things that you're quoted as saying, and I say quoted as saying because I wasn't there when you said it, so you're going to correct me if they were wrong.
I'm so glad you asked.
Been there, done that. But it was very bothersome to me, Carol, because I read these words, and I have to tell you, as somebody who ran for legislature, there is nothing that infuriates me more than an incumbent who comes across so haughty and so arrogant as to say, you know, I don't know why these people are running. It's just a waste of money. It's a waste of time. I've done such a great job. It's just a waste of party money. Can you respond to that?
You bet I can.
Good.
Let's go back a little further. 2 years ago, I'm trying to think of his first name, Richard Spanbauer said to me, I think you're vulnerable. I may run against you. And I said, well, you know, do what you have to do. But it is a waste of Republican money. I still feel that way. I think, Melanie, you might have mistaken confidence for arrogance. If you really knew me, I am not an arrogant person.
Well, but I mean, what does Republican money have to do with people running? Because who cares about the Republican Party money? We're talking about taxpayers' rights to have an open debate and dialogue about different issues. Why do we care about the Republican Party money?
I care a lot. I don't like asking for money. I don't like raising money. Here's how it works. If he spends his Republican money, and he will surely find some, you know, everybody has their own following. I will spend Republican money because I take every election seriously, and there's some things I have started that I have not completed, and I want to finish them. And the party loses out, and the people who would not be in our camp, so to speak, I want to not be mean-spirited here, but those against the things that I want, or those that would get against me even, I'm defending my own campgrounds, so I can't help another Republican candidate. Now, if I had no Republican primary, I would be helping other Republican candidates get elected.
See, and I just have such heartburn with that. And I'll tell you why. You just made a comment about people who aren't in our camp. Am I to assume that that is Democrats or
no,
even not like thinking Republicans? When you say people who aren't in our camp, because I guess when I look at elections, I look at you representatives as individuals who are supposed to be out there looking out for not only the district, which can be cumbersome at best, but also us as individuals within your district. And I don't give a rat's behind about the Republicans, about your party and about your platforms. I don't care about the Democrats and their platforms. What I want you to care about is the issues that affect all of us, like health care, like insurance, like taxes. What does that have to do with your camp, their camp, like...
I know, maybe camp is a poor choice of words.
Even if you would have said group or whatever word you would have used, it seems as though we are getting so bogged down with partisan politics at a Madison level that you forgot about us back here who, number one, we don't know what you're doing half the time, and even if we kind of think we know what you're doing, we don't understand how it all works.
That probably is the answer to your problem if you don't understand how it works. If you have enough members on your team that think like you do. I am not a tax and spender person. I never was. I'm as conservative as they get. I guess I would say maybe Glenn Grothman is more conservative than I am. And there's a fellow from the north, the Rhinelander area, Dan Meyer, that's very conservative. Both very intelligent people. Now, if I could find another Grothman and another Meyer, I would certainly help them because it all comes down to votes. Melanie, to get anything done, you have to have the votes. The last 2 years was horrible because they wouldn't take up anything in the Senate. So no matter what we did in our house, if it wasn't in the budget, it just didn't go anywhere. Very few things got done, which was sad. Now we're at a point in our house, and this is another reason why I will help Republicans and spend as little Republican money as I can. There's about 4 people that are just trashing our institution. And, you know, association, guilt by association, you want to put it that way? I have such respect for that institution.
When you say institution, are you talking about the Republican Party?
No, I'm talking about the Assembly.
Okay,
The,
all right.
the legislature.
Okay.
As the whole
As a whole.
picture.
Okay.
There's 4 of them that are the really bad ones. They are so bad that their own cannot control them. And if you tuned in last week, you would have gotten a good sample. They are so bad. There's probably a dozen or more that have talked to us and said, what can we do with them? They're going, because they're going to suffer. They won't get any legislation passed. And it's just going to be
Who
awful.
are the 4?
Well,
No, I'm not going to name
Why?
well, why not?
Well, tune in.
Well, tune into what?
Yeah, tune into
What
what?
are we tuning into?
The Assembly, when they're in session.
How do we?
How
Where
do
do we
we
tune
tune in?
into that?
Well,
We don't. It isn't
Go to the
televised here.
go to the library. It's not in the computers.
Well,
Oh, so you want us to check
stories.
the after? It's not something like on C-SPAN where you can see things live.
You can see it live if you go to. I'm sure the university has a hookup. There are people that have their own that can tune in while we're in session.
Well, I want one of those because I
Okay.
think that's
Well.
what
So I
Now,
guess
I may be mistaken. I have never done it, so I don't know. But
I've never
I'll
heard
check
of it.
it out.
I've never heard of it. But I mean, if you can do that, that's great. We'll check it out too. But I mean, okay, so I guess I have a couple of issues then. First of all, if it's a matter of public record and we could all watch it, why are you so reluctant to say who they are?
I think you should pick them out because maybe you don't think they're the bad actors.
And when you say they're bad, what do you mean they're bad? Are you
their
saying
behavior. Their behavior.
they're unruly, they're...
Their name calling to other people on the floor.
Okay.
The wrong words. The
swearing. You mean,
Well,
or wrong when you say wrong words?
just words that I would consider inappropriate in a debate.
Jeez, so far I've made 2 of the things on your list. I'd be bad. Okay, so they name call. They use inappropriate language or verbiage. What else are they doing?
Well, you know, you could. We have this. This is going to be a lesson 101 on,
That's good,
on
'cause-
decor. But I don't think it's what the people that if they watch this show want to hear. But we have, we can stand up and ask the speaker for unanimous consent to make a statement. And you can talk on anything. what the sunflower seed looked like this morning. If that's your statement, you're allowed to say it. No one ever objects to that. It has to be unanimous. If one person objects to your speaking, you cannot speak. No one ever objects, because when their turn came, somebody else would object, and they would not be allowed to speak. We don't want to shut off speech. We don't ever want to say you can't speak. But I would like them to speak, you know, with some decorum and respect for the institution.
Well, I think if they're that unruly and using foul language and things like that, they ought to be pretty easy to pick out. But I just don't know that we
I think you could pick
I just
them
don't know
out.
that we can see this. You
No,
know, that's
well,
that's
I
the
think
thing.
you can, but because I've heard them say somebody is tuning in, pulling out a microphone and throwing it on the speaker's desk, pulling it out with wire and all and throwing it at the speaker. I think that's very inappropriate behavior.
Do these, I guess my concern is that what I hear people talking about, and concerns that I have, and I'd rather just stick to that because I don't want to talk for other people, like I know somehow the collective thoughts and processes of the 54th, but
53rd.
well, the 54th is
Oh,
what I'm
54th
in, so
for you, yeah.
53rd for her, for Carol, excuse me. One of the things is people have become very jaded. I mean, they don't trust you guys. They don't feel like, it seems like come election time, we hear all of the things that the good intentions of what you wanted to do, and if it wasn't for those bleep bleep Democrats, we could have got it done. And the Democrats come and say, you know, here's all the things that we would have liked to gotten done, but bleep bleep, the Republicans aren't letting us do it. And I got to tell you, as a taxpayer stuck somewhere in the abyss, I'm like, I'd like to crack all of your heads together and say, you know what, I don't care if you're a Democrat, I don't care if you're a Republican. You find me affordable health care. You find me a way to lower my property taxes. You find a way to make teachers accountable to the students and give me more face-to-face time. You find a way to do the things that we've said, that you said you were going to do when we elected you. And it's not happening. And I think that's where this...
But it is.
Give me some ideas, Carol, as to
I'll give you some
what
facts.
has happened. Give me some. Have we made progress on health care with Medicare, prescription drugs for Medicare?
Just a minute. First, I want to finish the other one. You
Okay.
said I was arrogant.
I said that I don't like when somebody is reported to say in the paper that it's a waste of money, it's a waste of time, I've done a great job. To me, that comes across as very arrogant, very haughty, as though by virtue of your incumbency, you are entitled to a seat as long as you decide you want to run.
No, you misunderstood my comment. And Mr. Dito was not in the picture then. It was only Spanbauer.
Okay.
And I still feel that way. It is a waste of money because I will be tied up and I won't be able to help another candidate.
Tough for the other candidate.
Yeah.
But the 53rd, your people have choices. Isn't that a good thing?
I don't think it's a bad thing to have choices. Of course not. At that point, Mr. Dito was not in the picture.
Right. Okay.
And he certainly has a right to run. And maybe there'll be 2 or 3 more.
Mm-hmm.
I am not going to criticize those people for running. You didn't get that message right at all. Anyway, let's take, well, you wanted to do Medicare.
Well, wait, can we just stay on that for a
Sure,
moment?
go right ahead.
Because,
Well,
you know,
I want to move on because we're going to just get hung up on
we'll
that.
move on, but I want to go back for just a moment, and it kind of ties in with that. Now, here's another quote from the paper, and you were quoted as saying, with you and Mr. Spanbauer, "I will prevail. I have a wonderful record." I'm not sure, you know, what you consider to be a wonderful record, but I guess what does it say to you that in the 2002 election, 49% of the voters in your district voted for someone else? I mean, does that tell you, does that indicate to you that they really are super pleased with what you're doing? I mean, I realize you won, but that's almost half.
Yeah, I believe the numbers showed that I had more than both the other 2 candidates together, so I had more than half.
You had
I believe I had
51%.
53.
No, 51% of the votes. You had 3,191, and the two challengers, Mr. Eric Navis and Chuck Dinkle, together had 3,063. They had 49%, you had 51. But that's, I mean, that's so close. I realize it's enough to win, but what does that say to you, that almost half wanted somebody else?
That's what it says, exactly. I think one of the differences in the, for instance, Campbellsport, Eden, Lemira were very strong Carol Owens supporters because we were I'm very pro-life. You know, I'm conservative. It's a very conservative community, very family-oriented people. I'm concerned about families. In the switch, now the district kind of wraps around the city, and then I have a corner up there of the city of Oshkosh. Now those people north didn't know me as well as the Eden and Lemira area. So my guess is that probably made a difference in the total. I don't think those are bad numbers.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I personally, if I were running, I would not feel comfortable knowing that 49% of the voters in my district are not happy with the job I'm doing and voted for someone else. Are you?
But perhaps they knew someone else better and preferred someone else. I don't have a problem with that. I look at my mail and my phone calls, and that's where I get my direction. I serve my people. That's number one. Number first comes the people in the 53rd Assembly District. Number two, if anyone from outside my district comes to my office, they're welcomed in. The building and the institution and everything else belongs to the people. There are people that say, well, I asked my representative and they didn't respond, or they didn't do this or that, and I'll give them the answer if I have it. If I don't, I can't. If I answer them, I send a note to the representative or senator or whomever saying, this is what I have told them, this is your constituent, ta-da-da-da. Usually if it's a letter, I send the letter over with a note first and give the representative. People sometimes don't know where they fit exactly. And especially now.
Where you've changed the district.
Where you've changed the district so much.
Exactly.
So I don't have a problem. You know, do you look at the glass half full or half empty? Maybe people were against Carol Owens, maybe people were for someone else. That doesn't bother me. That's politics.
Well,
if you're that thin-skinned, you wouldn't last 5 minutes.
I don't think it's a matter of being thin-skinned. I just
for
don't
me,
feel I would just feel that, okay, if almost half the people are voting for someone else, maybe I can do something to reach out to get a bigger percentage of people who like what I'm doing. Are you doing anything like that?
It'll get better as they get to know me, because if you look at the record, my record.
But they've had 12 years to get to know you.
They haven't all. This is a whole new district these last 2 years.
Okay.
Otherwise, if you look at the numbers in back of this before the population switch, they're a whole lot better than that.
Okay.
Well, here's what I've done. Let's just
let's go over it, because we want to find out how you've made life better for the 53rd Assembly District.
I'm going from this year backwards.
Okay.
Okay, there's a bill out there, and I'll try and be brief.
Okay.
One called a pharmacist conscience clause. I don't think people should be fired because they don't want to do something they feel is morally wrong. Senior court is a bit of a misnomer. It's the high teen court. We have a teen court in Winnebago County, if you're familiar with it. This is the upper teens, so they don't get kicked into the real court system at 18. Underage drinking it's such a minor change. There was a family had a underage child killed in a car accident, was served liquor by a bartender who they say was aware that he was a underage drinker. What the bill does, it changes the language from minor to underage. The guy got off with no prison time, nothing.
What is the difference between minor and underage?
Well, it's how the lawyers and how the courts interpret it.
Well, you have to be 21 to drink, so anything below that, aren't you considered a minor? Or
Well,
once you're 18
once you're
to 21,
18, you're not considered a minor.
So that's where the rub is, from 18 to 21.
Exactly.
Okay,
All
I
right.
gotcha.
See, it's then another one on the minor issue. For instance, kids that do damage, the court can assess them, and if they have a job, they take the whole family income into account. And this bill would just look at that minor's income, and they could garnish wages. He could keep his job, but he'd have to pay restitution. In a nutshell, that's what that does.
Does that also mean that they have to wait longer to get paid? Say if the kid, let's say they're marching down Main Street and decide to bust all the windows out of a photography shop because they just didn't have anything better to do. Minor is making $6 an hour at a local fast food restaurant. It's going to cost $3,000 to fix the window. At $6 an hour, that's going to take you a long time to see
I
money.
can't really answer that, Melanie. There might be something that comes into play of the parents' responsibility there. So it would depend. It's what the court assesses, and that's what this bill does. There's just not a lot of easy answers
But
to
it doesn't put a sunset on how long the kids have
No.
to pay this back?
No. It just deals with his income.
Okay.
Charter town legislation, the border wars. It's sort of like the charter school. It says this is what we are, and we want to operate under this charter. And it's for the bigger towns. Stops the border wars. They have to have fire protection, 24 hours, police protection, water or sewer.
And these can these still be voluntary firefighters, voluntary police? These are towns or
No,
villages?
this
that you're talking about, these border
charter towns. Charter
forgive me, I don't know
towns.
what charter towns are.
Oh, that's what I'm telling you.
So this is what you're saying. I apologize. I thought. See, this
That's
is
all right.
so.
No,
Why
they
would
have to be
anybody
paid. They have to be paid 24 hours. For instance, the town of Menasha is a real good example.
And that could be a charter town.
It could be.
is.
If this bill were passed, they probably would qualify for a charter town.
What's the difference between a charter town and just a town?
Usually in town government, if it's not listed in the statutes, you can't do it. We have how to explain it? If the city wants to annex a chunk of land, there's very little a town can do about it.
Mm-hmm.
But, the cities, in some cases, not all. Some are getting along a little better. In fact, it is encouraging. 10 years ago, every annexation issue, the comment from one person was, "We'll sue." Okay, we'll sue. Now, the last couple years, he said maybe we should be talking. And that's a good thing, because that's tax dollars paying both sides of the bill, and it's stupidity.
Well, and there's no money, which I want to talk to you about because you took our shared revenue away, Carol.
Just a minute. Military, I want to finish this.
Okay, by all
military
means.
employment, military employment discrimination. There was just a little glitch in the law, and we want to make the Fed and the state come together the same. And this is an example. I just hired a young man in my office who is ROTC, just graduated in the spring, and he is going to have to leave in January for 4 months out of my office. Now, I could have said, well, Joel, I can't be without help for 4 months. Now, we're going to have to pick up some slack there in our office for 4 months. But I hired him. He's a good worker. He's loyal. He's hit the ground running. And he deserves a job when he gets back. He's military. It's not his choice to leave. And goes without saying with the National Guard.
So what does the bill do that you...
You cannot discriminate and say, I'm not hiring you because
you're in the military. In
Right.
any branch of the military.
That's right.
Okay.
See,
ROTC
before
Usually they get
guards.
preferred
It-
status anyway.
It was, it did not include the National Guard, and this includes the National Guard because with the changing times, more of the National Guard is being called up. And they are state and not federal. The National Guard is state.
Was there a lot of military discrimination that you became aware of?
I don't know that there was. My main concern was for the
Just
National Guard
just
people.
the inclusion of the
Right,
language?
right.
Okay.
And then cell phone legislation. That was kind of poo-pooed a bit too, but I represent my district. And when I have a half a dozen calls at home on an issue, it's time to look. This was not a reaction. If you look at the bill, I believe it's AB 58, that's a very low number. I had that drafted somewhere between the primary and the general election last year. I think it was October. But I didn't push it. I thought if this is serious enough for this many people, it's time to get it out and have a debate and have a talk about it. Well, then there were two very sad circumstances in Wisconsin. And so the newspaper reporters and whomever, oh Lord, I think we did 6 TV stations and 20 plus radio stations, and I don't know how many reporters, because my name is on the bill, asking about the cell phone bill after the 2 deaths in Wisconsin. And I explained then, it was drafted way back when. This is not a reaction to the 2 accidents.
What does the bill do, Carol?
It says if the use of the cell phone is the cause of the accident, it's proven to be, then there's a fine. And I really can't even answer you how much. It's $400 or $500. It was drafted very simple, very low, so that we could bring it out for debate if they felt we should have a higher fine, which I do think it should be very stiff if it's proven that the cell phone.
Will we next then be seeing legislation
Well, the French
about
fries, the hamburgers, the shaving, the lipstick.
tuning a radio?
Yeah, well, that's covered under inattentive driving if they want to cite
So
you.
why did we need this additional legislation then? That would also, I mean, if you're
Enough
talking
people in the 53rd thought it should be brought out, and that's why I brought it out.
Would that not have been covered under inattentive driving?
It possibly could be, but the cell phone is becoming so prevalent.
So this legislation that's pending does not preclude people from using a cell phone.
No.
All it does is it penalizes them if it's proven that it was contributory to an accident.
That's right.
Okay, so I think that there were people out there that thought, hey, Carol Owens doesn't want us using our cell phones while we drive.
Well, probably that too.
Well, see, now we just
Now
I want you to know we heard that first on IMF.
Yes, and I want you to know I pull over to the side. My cell phone bill, I just saw it today, was $17 and odd cents. So I do not spend a lot of airtime on my cell phone.
Well, I think a lot of people are going with using the headphones or the earbuds now so that they can keep both hands on the wheel or whatever.
I asked about that. But someone said, well, how about hands-free? And I said, well, yeah, I'd accept it as an amendment, but they say you're distracted. Now, on where did I just hear that? That is causing some problems with the breathing, because when you walk, you should be straight, and if you're like this on the cell phone, you're not inhaling. Oh,
for God's
I
sake.
tell you, the cell phone is a demon.
Why don't we just not have? Why don't we just not allow anyone to even talk in their car? They have to remain mute. We'll have radios
Good
removed
idea.
from the cars.
Yeah, but
idea.
now,
I mean,
here's
this
a problem
is
for me.
just more legislation. With all due respect, it's just another layer of legislation
It's there
that
for
could
debate.
be covered. Okay, so this is not passed.
No, it's there for debate.
What about the pharmacist conscience bill? Has that passed or
No.
Okay.
It's this. We're working from this. We
So
hardly
that's
have
still
gotten
being
into
debated then
legislation
also?
for this year. Now I'll flip. Let's go back to 78 and 79. Tax indexing. That was my legislation.
What does that do?
If you get a $10 raise you don't get bumped up into a higher tax break.
Okay.
It's indexed so that, you know, some people got a $30 raise and paid more in taxes because it pushed them up. That's what that was. That was a lot of money in the pockets of people that work for a wage. And that was passed in the budget. We never would have got that separate.
Which budget was it passed in, Carol? This one?
77.
19.
Whew.
I was going to say 1977.
Little Freudian slip there. 97 and 98. Then I did 100% reimbursement for the National Guard tuition. We were paying 50%. The states surrounding us were paying 100%, and our enrollment was a little low. There was a danger we might have to close an armory. I thought we should do something about that, and I thought we ought to have the best educated and the brightest, and I thought they deserved, you know, when you say the National Guard, it isn't just a one night out doing calisthenics. It's whenever you should be there for confirmation, you're out with the National Guard.
Right.
Your brother's getting married, too bad, National Guard week.
That's right.
So they give up a lot.
And that was passed when?
It was, the bill passed as part of the budget. It was AB 108, but we couldn't get the Senate to take it out.
So this was also included in the budget of
That
97,
was
98?
also included in the budget. Marriage skills class in high school. Now we're into 99, 2000. The bill became law in 2001 and 2002, inserted into the budget. Died in the Senate. Here's another one. When I went there, I thought the building was, you're going to love this one, you two. Prohibit smoking in the state capitol and on capitol grounds. The Senate companion, they went through together, Fred Risser and I, he in the Senate and myself in the Assembly, prohibit smoking inside the Capitol. And there was an amendment by Senator Moen that said, I believe it was 6 phantoms or 8 phantoms, which he thought I wouldn't accept because it's a nautical term. And I did accept it. Now we have a fixer-up that puts this into language that's everyone will understand.
Well, I hope so, because I didn't understand a word you just said.
You didn't.
No,
Really?
And I don't mean to be rude, but I don't know what you said. That you and Fred Risser went.
We
to
got that part.
I
We
got
understood
Fred Risser, no smoking inside the Capitol.
Which
That's
I
right.
don't have a problem with that. I have no heartburn
and
with
then
that.
a senator came in called Moen. I got that part.
With a,
Was 6 phantoms something or another.
yeah.
And then I'm gone. And
That was his amendment, to make that the measurement from how far away from the building.
Okay.
See, it didn't make sense to a lot of other people, but
Well,
I
I'm
had
like,
to
6
accept
phantoms,
it.
what?
He was trying to kill the bill. I mean,
Oh,
there's
okay.
your shenanigans.
Okay, gotcha.
We are, do you have a lot more? I mean, I don't want to cut you off, but,
Oh, yeah, I have a whole lot more.
well, we're running short on
Compulsi-
time. We're down to like 15 minutes, and I know we
Okay.
want to cover some specific issues. So
There's some other things I did. I'll just do the rainy day fund. You've heard of that? That
Yes.
was my legislation.
Where's it been?
Pushed
Really?
way back.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
this is a great idea, unfortunately not instituted.
No, couldn't get it passed.
That's a shame, because now
The
we're
first
broke.
time it went, we ran out of time. They're just,
So stay in session. What keeps you from saying, hey, you know what, we're staying here till we get her done?
careful what you wish for, Melanie.
Well, serious, I don't care. You're getting paid
I don't
regardless.
sit-
You can stay there as long as you want.
But it costs the state money every day we're there.
Well, I guess I kind of look at it like it's costing us money every day that you're not getting the job done, too, because we don't have a rainy day fund.
We
don't-
do now.
Well, yeah, I know, but it's
there's no
after the
money.
fact.
But
you know,
anyway, and compulsive gambling, I did go after money for those folks. It's a terrible problem in our state. I don't think you realize how much.
I don't have any
And
money
then
to gamble
I just
with,
would like
so.
to touch on a couple things, a few people that think I'm a good guy. 94.
You actually have a list. I
Oh.
don't think if I put my mind to it, I could come up with 2 people.
oh, sure,
Well,
you could.
let's call this one my brag sheet. What can I say? 1994-96 Friend of Agriculture Award from Farm Bureau. 97-98 Outstanding Legislator Award from the counties. 2001 Wisconsin Counties Award, Friends of Wisconsin Counties. 98, 2000, 2002 Working for Wisconsin Award, Wisconsin Manufacturers and Commerce. 1999 Outstanding Volunteer from Wabeno Area School District. I'll get back to that if you have time. Remember that, Melanie.
Okay, Wabeno.
Yes, we got to remember good old Wabeno High. 2000 Guardian of Small Business Award. That's from the independent businesses. 2001 Pro-Life Wisconsin Legislator of the Year. 2002 Legislative Appreciation Award, Wisconsin Council on Problem Gambling.
Good.
Okay. So there are some business-related organizations that have given you awards. There are some education-related businesses that have given you awards and named you Legislator of the Year. A voter from your district had sent us an email and wanted us to ask you a question, and it ties in with some of the things that we were just talking about. In terms, and I'm going to read it verbatim because I don't have it committed to memory, in terms specifically related to that of manufacturing jobs, the cost of health care, the number of family farms, and the quality of education, can you please tell us how the residents of the 53rd State Assembly District are better off now in November 2003 than they were 12 years ago when you first took office? And again, they're looking at manufacturing jobs, health care issues, the number of family farms, and the quality of education.
How can you group that all into one lump and say it's better because of this or that? I'm not exactly sure what you're looking for.
Well, I'm not looking for it. One of your constituents is. I think what legislation have you voted affirmatively or negatively for that has affected manufacturing jobs, health care issues, family farms, and the quality of education?
Well, I have voted probably every chance I got for anything that helped the health care, the insurance situation. It's not just easy, and you have to remember with health care they do so much more than they used to do.
Mm-hmm.
And where you have national health insurance, if you have a bad hip, that's too bad you have a bad hip. It takes 2 years to see a consultant. That's the word they use to me. And then you might get to a doctor, and if you still have the bad hip, if you're too old, they aren't going to give you a new hip.
And this is if we were to have national health care.
Right. I mean, that's an example.
Mm-hmm.
So I think our health insurance at the state level has gone from 600-something to 900-something. And they've asked us to pay $62, which I think is very fair. Now, some of the unions that are already starting negotiation are saying we're not going to pay that, we'll give you $28. So, you know.
Is it a pay period, a month? How does that break down?
A month.
A month?
A month.
Okay.
Yeah. And there would be something in there with the co-pays on insurance.
Sure.
But everyone has a different
Sure.
plan. Farmers, they're not any better off.
Okay.
Qualify that. They are on the property tax with the land use value assessment. That has helped some farmers stay afloat. So in that respect, they are.
Okay.
The dairy industry is not. Used to be every farmer down the road had cows. Now there aren't any.
We're down to probably about 8 minutes.
Okay. I'm going to
so
rapid
why don't
fire
you
a couple.
Go ahead.
Do you accept PAC money?
Yes.
Political Action Campaign?
Yes.
And you do not view that accepting special interest money could potentially cause problems with conflict of interest in
No.
your voting?
No.
You support the concealed weapons?
Nobody has enough money to influence my vote. It isn't
Okay.
money.
Okay.
And political action committees are groups of John Doe people that put their money together in a pool.
What about insurance companies that solicit your support and give you dollars?
Insurance companies.
Say health insurance agencies. say, and I'm just picking this name out of a hat, Network Health.
They've never been in my office.
I'm just saying, if they would you accept that money?
I don't know. I'd have to look at what they stand for first.
Okay. You support the concealed weapons bill. Why would that be? You're a pro-life, very conservative. Why concealed weapons? Why in the state of Wisconsin, where we've enjoyed a relatively safe environment?
And it won't change very much. There isn't going to be a rush for guns. I would rather have the gun carrier. He's going to have training. He's going to have a license. He's going to have a background check. Now, the criminal element has already got the guns. They're the only ones with the guns. The crimes are committed by those people. And if John Doe feels more comfortable with a gun, that's his Second Amendment right. It's the right to bear arms. For myself, Melanie, I'm a girl who can't find her lipstick when I need it. I am not going to put a gun in my purse.
So 22 is out of the question.
You won't be packing heat, right?
You got it.
One of the questions that goes along with the concealed weapons, because you're going to be requiring special permitting and so forth, is this a revenue generating source for the state of Wisconsin?
I imagine it'd be a wash.
Okay,
There'll be a cost to whoever issues the permit, whoever does the training. You have to pass a little training. Sure. My guess is there's a cost to that. It would be a wash.
Okay.
I would like to see it at least be a wash. Not
put
that. I don't want it on the county's back.
Right.
To pay for it.
Exactly.
You know, if you want the gun and the permit, then you have to have enough money to cover that.
Thank you. We got that on tape. We're hoping that everyone's listening. And one last thing, because I want to give Cheryl some time in case she has anything. Shared revenue, as you know, everybody knows. I've talked about this till I'm about purple in the face. Carol, you're paying attention to your district, the 53rd. You have townships. You have parts of the city. Your townships have lost significant dollars to the rating of the shared revenue funds to plug the holes at the state legislature. What do you say to those people out there who've lost, City of Oshkosh lost $1 million this year after the rating of the shared revenue. Town of Algoma in the last 2 years has lost $38,390. The City of Omro lost $50,000. These are budgets that are tight budgets. What do you say to your constituents in these areas that have lost significant dollars because of the legislature's view on shared revenue? How, number one, do you go to their budget meetings and see what they're going through? And two, what do you say to them when they're not going to be able to keep some of the services that their taxpayers are expecting?
I don't attend every town's budget hearing because I represent 16 towns.
Okay.
I want 3 villages. Couple cities, Omro, Waupun, Oshkosh. This is not a new thing. We used to have 2 revenue sharings, Melanie. I kept them separate by calling one shared revenue and the other one revenue sharing. The feds had revenue sharing too, just like the state does. We didn't get as much from them, but we had the 2 pots, and they quit it years and years ago. This is not a new thing. I was never really supportive of pulling back on shared revenue.
But you did vote for it.
Yes, I did. Let me finish my sentence.
Okay, well, when you say you're not in favor of it, but then you vote for it, that it wasn't ringing true. So I want to give you a chance to respond.
I was not a proponent of dropping shared revenue per se, the whole picture. I voted for it because there isn't enough money in the pot to go any further with it now. But there are a lot of representatives in Madison that would have done away with shared revenue a long time ago. And I didn't want to see that happen. And I hate to see it happen too quickly. When I talk to, for the most part, the towns say as long as they get their fair share, they can do with less. What do you do at home when you have less? You do with less.
What are you folks in Madison doing to do with less? Where is the legislature? And we're wrapping up here in just a couple minutes, but where is the legislature biting the bullet and trimming the fat from the state budget?
Well, I think we've done a little bit in the assembly, and without, I don't have all the numbers in my head. Us, we'd only count for 3 days in Madison. You know, they have to pay the hotel room if I stay there. That's why I hate to see us in any extra days. Now, if you're there 5 days, you only get your hotel paid for 3, or your per diem is 3. They pay 1 trip back and forth a week.
Okay.
I'm trying to think of other things, and we'll save some more. I'm sure there will be some more savings that way.
Well, but where have you saved so far?
I'm talking about just the assembly. Wasn't that your question?
Yes.
And I think what she was saying is that she views that because they're in the assembly, in legislature, in session only 3 days, that saves the taxpayers money for not having to pay per diem and hotels.
Yeah,
and
not
so
necessarily in
Well-
session, but the days that we're there.
Well, I got that, but I
Oh,
mean,
okay, I'm sorry.
No, I understood that, but what else are we cutting at the state level?
Well, they've reduced the payrolls by oodles. In the prison system, it's down to really bare bones. There are many positions still on the table that have not been filled.
Okay.
Just my own little bit, which is like probably an eye drop it in the bucket. I was between staffers, and I didn't hire until the 1st of January, and I think my staff left in October. It's a couple $1,000s, but it's at least an effort. It's better than nothing.
That's true. We are just about out of time. Why don't you look at camera 3 over here and just tell the voters in about 30 seconds or so why they should vote for you come next September.
Why should they vote for me? Well, I have a couple of projects started that I would like to see through to fruition. If we have to go back to square one and start over, it will take a long time to get them going again. There are some things that I would like to do that I feel I have the support for. It all boils down to having the votes to get it done. I've enjoyed serving the 53rd Assembly District. I have a good rapport with the people. There was a comment that I don't respond to phone calls, and I think if you would check my phone calls in and out, that you will see I respond to them all.
Okay. And on that, we need to wrap up. Thank you very much for being here. And we'll have you back as it gets closer to election time.
Did you call me some?
Just a moment.
Oops.
Thank you very much for joining us, folks. We'll see you next time. Until then, keep your eye on us. We've got our eye on Oshkosh. Take care.